let's move on to this in r/Gacha Gaming, everybody's favourite subreddit, especially if you're a Wuthering Waves fan, guys, right? You love r/Gacha Gaming. Does RNG gear make you pull less for characters? I think they're trying to say there. Does RNG gear make you pull less for characters, guys? With RNG gear, I am talking about gear that has random stats from main to substats. Examples, Zenless Zone Zero, Wua, Genshin, and Wua. So Wua twice. Dude's not a fan of the echoes, I see. Substats do suck. After playing many gachas with and without RNG gear, I realised that I pulled way more for characters, spent more money in games that don't have it. Interesting. I dread having to farm a new gear set for a new character. Some gear sets took me months for one character, so I just keep skipping characters. Meanwhile, if the game doesn't have random gear stats, Arknights, Reverse 1999, I keep pulling left and right because I know that I only need to farm resources to level them up instead of also having to farm RNG gear. What about you? What about you, guys? What about you? See, like for me, I suppose this is where Gacha gets ya. In the excitement of a good roll is an enjoyable thing. Like winning a 50-50 feels good. It only feels good because you can lose, right? And you have lost. Not that it's a good system. I'm just talking about the endorphin action that you get from it. I don't mind RNG to a degree in regards to when you get drops of items, right? You get it in MMOs, whether you get good PCs, bad PCs, whatever, right? There's always God drops in games. And I think that's totally fine because it can encourage grinding and farming if done correctly. But I think when you lean into the... Let's just take Wuthering Waves, for example, because that's a game that I play a lot of. And it's a system that I'm not a fan of either as well. When you can have... You've got a Sonata set, of course, what the set does basically, right? And then you've got your main stats, and then you've got your 5 substats, and your main stat can be different, and obviously your substats can be as well. Now, your main stat being different is a bitch, actually, especially in Minnesota. It seems to have got worse. You can guarantee if you need Spectral, it's probably not going to drop Spectral. That sort of thing's not too bad if it was just that, because you can go back and farm the thing over and over again. Then you add in the 5 substats, and then you add in 2 forms of currency or materials to then use to build up those 5 substats, and continuously getting trash substats feels bad because you've just paid for this new character. You've then had to level up this new character, which can take a little bit of time anyway if you haven't pre-farmed, in terms of like leveling the character, ascending them, leveling their traces, all that sort of stuff, getting their weapon, leveling their weapon up. And then you get to the point of being like in a bad state of just constantly getting shafted with substats, because people will always say, well, I didn't have any issue, did it in a day. And it's just like, yeah, some people just don't get that luck. You know, that's the whole point of RNG, isn't it? And I think it is a factor, I think, with Wuthering Waves. It's kind of made me... I don't think I'm pulling less just yet, but I think it's starting to get like that where I'm thinking, I'm going to get this character and then I'm just going to be in a chase to build the character. It feels like you've got to pre-farm everything and do it all before the character comes rather than just enjoy building the character. And I don't like doing that personally, if I'm honest. Again, I think having a balance there, I do like the Enfield system where your gear, it's set, and then you get those essence things that go into your weapon, and that's where the RNG lies. That doesn't seem too bad of a system, if you ask me, where there's a reason to go and farm that, but your overall gear is set. I like the idea of that, because there's having a little bit of RNG there is not a bad thing, but it's one item rather than 5 items having 6 potential RNG factors to them, which is just an exponential amount for every single character, and you're getting 2 characters per patch. It just feels too much, that does. It just feels far too much for me, personally. I just don't like that sort of stuff. This is one of the reasons why I quit Wua. RNG hinders account growth, and in a way, why pull for a character you probably can't max build, yeah? And I hear so many people in the Wuthering Waves space go, well, that's the end game for Wuthering Waves, is echo farming. I'm like, yo, bro, if that's the end game, that's trash. Get out of there with that shit. If that's the end game for the game, yeah, that's a shit end game if you ask me. I know it's not the end game. That's just people coping. But I just hate that. I hate that argument. Well, that's the end game. Well, it's a shit end game then. RNG gear doesn't make me pull less. It makes me build a character less. Facts. Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of at with Wuthering Waves, me man. Farming RNG gear leads to burnout, not feeling like leveling up another character, so you don't bother. Yeah, because it's one thing grinding for potential RNG drops, but you know there's almost an end goal. It's a different thing when you get that and then you level all the RNG on top of it, because it can feel like it's almost infinite. You know, you'll probably in a short amount of time get to a point where your character's all right, but then if you really want to go to that next level of clearing stuff, you have to go that step further. Now, I know there is potentially lots of content. You don't need god tier roles in WoW for the most part, but it sucks when you know you've just spent for a character and your character's running at 80% because you just can't get the good luck. It doesn't feel good at all. Fur Classic Arknights could do without gear gacha. This is an artificial way to prolong gameplay. Agree. And it's not a good way to prolong gameplay as well. Game lost 50-50. What a bummer. Are you sure you want to touch your retirement funds? As long as you mitigate the RNG. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's being able to mitigate it to some degree. Because gamers don't mind grind. It's when they've got a grind that they know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, isn't there? It's when, you know, there's no light and you're fumbling around in the darkness. That doesn't feel good for me. I don't like that kind of grind. It's definitely one of the reasons skip characters was going on. Jaya, welcome to the stream. Yes, I don't like RNG. It makes me only use meta characters so my gameplay fails smooth. I think that is what happens as well, isn't it? RNG can like push the meta a little bit more, make it a little bit more skewed sometimes for the individual, of course, because it's RNG, of course. As long as the RNG is only for incremental gains, the RNG doesn't let you be creative. It just makes it harder for you to reach a goal. I hate RNG gear where this gear can only rely being used by one type of unit. So you slave for days, weeks, only for one unit that isn't easily used on someone else. Okay, so you want a little bit more of a global system going on. Building a character, in my opinion, disincentivizes me from pulling. I've come from Genshin and I quit. Thinking about building and farming relics kills me. I mean, that's fair. You know? Fighting RNG to build a character can be fun, but only up to a point. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like I say, I think RNG in games to a degree can be fun, can't it? You know, when you get drops of items in a game, because obviously that feels good. You know, you do the colour thing. You know, you have your common, your uncommon, your green, your blue, your purple, your gold. When you get that purple gold drop, you're like, yes, it feels good. So there is a positive to it there, but it's about reinforcing it positively as well, isn't it? So it feels like that you're benefiting from doing that rather than just constantly banging your head against the wall of getting defense back to back and energy regen or the lowest fucking crit roll. If you're lucky enough to get crit, you get the lowest crit roll. That's the worst, you know? It's so much of a bitch with Wuthering Waves, the amount of times my crit rate and crit damage rolls are the lowest rolls. Yesterday, I actually got 4 crit damage rolls that were decently high, like 17% and up. And it, like, I was blown away because I was like, holy shit, that never happens to me. It's not fun, and just wasting through that material that you've farmed as well. RNG wasting material that I farmed for it feels, yeah, it does. It's annoying, isn't it? It feels like your time's wasted. I can enjoy RNG gearing, but when every character do, yeah, that's why I think I'll enjoy the Enfield system, because I can just gear my characters up. That's all static, and then I've got that one item to farm, rather than having like potentially 5 items on a character, all with having 5 substats and a main stat. That's just like, see, like, I feel like NTE looks like it might be going down a good route where you get a gear drop, you can see all the substats, and then you decide if you want to build it. I like that, you know? Now, some people will argue against that. That's a good idea to me, because you can look at that gear and be like, right, don't need to waste mats on it. I'll feed it into somebody else, or I'll just scrap it. That, to me, I like that. That's respecting my time, you know? It's saying to me, hey, there is RNG here, and you might not get the item you want, but we'll let you know it's not what you want before you invest in it. I don't like RNG where I have to invest to know I got shafted by RNG when I've already invested time anyway. I've already invested the time on the materials to farm the item. So why do they then have to use those material and more time to get to know that I've just been fucked in the ass, basically? I don't like that. Enfield Gearing is like heaven on earth when compared to these RNG farm artifacts and relics. Agree. Yes, I do. It's felt like they want my time too much. My character felt powerful enough for 3 months before meta change. Yeah, I quit Genshin recently, HSR, because RNG is just becoming such a chore. The getting new character doesn't excite me anymore. Yeah, it does that, doesn't it? Yeah. Will put me off, because as soon as I saw you could infinitely farm, I knew that the stat would be grind, would be soul destroying. Yeah, because that's the argument. People know we can do it infinitely. I don't want to do that infinitely, especially overworld farming. It is such a pain in the ass to overworld farm in Wuthering Waves. I don't find it enjoyable at all. And then I know you could do fields, but I'm just saying overworld farming sucks. Glazing Limbers, it's nice to know they only grind for shards to get new characters and EGOs. That's why I quit Guardian Tales, multiple RNG stats on each item, 8 items per character, and there's a bunch of characters. No thanks. Yes, it's not it, is it? It's not it. I quit Genshin because of RNG, and if Wither doesn't fix it, yeah, I think Wuthering Waves really needs to do something. Like either has some sort of ability to roll 1 or 2 of your stats, or I said, you know, when they're talking about having a base system or a homestead, you know, like a home to do up and that. I was thinking, why not have something a bit bigger than that? Let's have it so it's like Dark Cloud, where you can like build a little town. You go into dungeons and collect all the stuff to put together, whatever. But you've got a little farm, and you can, I know it's not in the lore of the game, you can clone echoes, or you can make them. You get a little baby one where you can choose 2 of the stats, and the third stat has a higher percentage to get what you want, and then the last 2 stats are random. That would feel better, and you can always choose the main stat as well. So it's a focus build, and you can only have maybe 2 of those on your character. So the RNG is still there for the rest of your stats, but it just allows a bit more control. I feel like, you know, when you have no control, it doesn't feel good. Especially in a game like Wuthering Waves, which is heavily skill-based. And then there's that massive RNG factor that's out of your control. I don't think feels good at all. RNG-based equipment is best if it's a non-gacha game like Path of Exile, Grim Dawn, etc. Yeah, because obviously that element of you haven't spent on a character then get shafted by RNG. So yeah, that's a good point as well, Ryan. That is actually. I hated the crowns in Genshin. You can't max someone because give you just what 2 or 3 patch. You need 3 crowns to max on units. Early game to mid game, intense battle and story. Late game, Farmville. It's true, Leo. RNG gear becomes a cool thing when you don't need to farm RNG for teams of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's why, like in things like MMOs and RPGs, it doesn't feel too bad because you've got a character that you haven't had to just go and then spend money or beat RNG to get the character, you know, and the gear's usually, it's just an RNG drop, you know, it's not then like massive amounts of RNG on top, usually, at least, anyway. Okay, all right. Seems like you guys are kind of in the same sort of boat as me then. If they made farming artifacts and such like hey, Monster Hunter World farming for decoration, it may be good, basically flat stat increases just like Enfield. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Exactly, Purple, yeah. That's why, like, yeah, things like PoE, Diablo, you know, you just RPGs in general or an MMO, you know, it having that element of, oh shit, I got a shit drop. It's okay because it's for that one character. You don't have to do that 50 times over then, do you, over the space of time. And then there's not that potential that you've spent money to get a character to build, but also, even if you're not spending, you're lost to 50-50, and then you actually get the character. It's like, man, I have to go through RNG for that anyway, and time to then go back into the RNG just to build the character. It's not a fun time at all. I think there's a place for RNG, but I think some games do it far too much, and as somebody who plays a lot of Wuthering Waves is a big suspect for this, in my opinion. I think it needs to change. Will it ever? I don't know. They don't seem to be wanting to change it yet. But yeah, interesting. I might upload this as a video as well, so let me know in the comment section. What do you think about RNG gear? Does it make you pull less for characters? Are you less interested or invested in upcoming patches because you just can't be arsed in going through the whole RNG rigmarole again? I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed it, give it a like.